Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be showing you exactly what I do in a fairly typical pull workout. This is back and biceps. So here I'm setting up the pads, making sure the height is right, feeling at my back, making sure that I get a good contraction. Notice here the actual height of the seat is too low, so I've raised it. Don't just go with whatever someone's left it like before. Make sure it's relevant and specific to you. I'm very tall. I actually raised it higher, so it tells me the person before me must have been an absolute giant. Funnily enough, they're only about 5'4", but never mind, they had it wrong. So there we go. And I've strapped up. I'm pulling back. So my scapula is retracting backwards, obviously. I'm pulling my mid back together. So what I like to think here is I've got a pencil between my upper mid back. I'm thinking, can I squeeze that together and try and crush it? Notice the form here is controlled, steady. What I also like to do is try not to bring my thumbs inwards. I try to just hold the weight, so I'm pulling with my wrists as if they're just hooks. That's all I'm doing here, nothing too fancy. It's a chest supported row, so it's very safe on the spine as well, at least for me. So work your whole upper back, your rear delts, forearms a little bit, biceps a little bit. It's a tricky movement to do. It does hurt if you're not careful, so you have to have a good element of control for this sort of movement. I like to let my shoulders roll a bit further forward than most people in this one. I find a good stretch in it, which it kind of eliminates inertia as well, which is always good, I think. Train safe. Next we have quite an awkward exercise, but it does work the lats very, very well. This is a cable lat pullover. It's quite awkward to get your hands in the right place for this one. I appreciate a lot of people won't have these sort of straps in most gyms, but here's another way of doing a cable pullover without actually having your forearms and biceps and everything activated too much. You'll notice that I actually kneel on the ground to do this for several reasons. One, all the pull downs in the gym are made for very, very, very short people. I'd estimate maybe 5'6". So I actually hit the top of the stack every single time I use a pull down machine. This allows me to have a greater range of motion. Also, I can actually position my body, which also in a way means it feels more safe for my spine. So I can actually change the angle as I go through the movement. It's my individual nuance that I add to this sort of training methodology. So it's not everyone has to do this. Some people can just sit in a knee support pad sort of thing, but I don't need to do that right now. I'm quite happy doing it this way. Of course, the control is very good. My elbows don't really go any further back because it hurts my spine if I go too far back, which is awkward as hell. But it does work. You can pull it further back if you want. It's not an exact instruction kind of example here, but you can do it if you're able to. The most important thing here is to get the tension and get the intensity in. So your back muscles know, okay, I have to grow now. This was really hard work. This is basically a half rep here, so I had a bit more strength there. So I used my hands here to actually squeeze the rope apart almost to make it easier, if that makes sense. So I got an extra rep there. So you can do that if you've got a safe movement pattern to be able to do that. So here we've got an underhand lap pulldown again. The machines are not built for 6'1" people at all. So I had to go on my knees. My knees actually kind of underneath the pad, so I've got a bit of resistance there against my knees, so it does help me stay locked in. Of course, it's quite lightweight anyway, so it's not really a problem. Same thing applies to my lower back. I have to sort of angle it in such a way that it doesn't cause any strain or tension in areas I don't want it to be. I advise people not to go too wide on this, at the same time not too narrow. Too narrow, you'll be limited in your range of motion, and too wide, you end up hurting your wrists, activating your biceps too much, perhaps not activating the lat muscles fully, to actually limit your range of motion. So there's a reason why I do a lot of exercises in the medium grip. That's the way I like to do things. And people go to extreme because they think it'll work the lats more because you're wider, but that's not true at all. In fact, the opposite is probably true if anything. The important thing here is to get your elbows tucked in towards your hips and to lower your lats down, if that makes sense. So you want to squeeze your lats down. Next we've got here, it's also a chest supported row like I did earlier, but I use the neutral grip. Important thing here is, for me, I can't let my body roll forward too much. I notice that kind of pulls my lower back. So my angle here is a bit different to a lot of people would do. Probably something like maybe 100 degrees here in terms of knees to upper back. I suggest most people to do about 90 degrees or maybe 80 degrees, something like that. That would get your lats really firing. And one important thing to note here is, with the weight, I am actually pulling downwards, not just back. So it's down and back, because the lats insert somewhere near the top and they finish somewhere near the bottom. If you want to try and match that motion, you don't want to pull it back. It doesn't work that way. Think about muscle mechanics and physiology. Next here, chewing the gum, of course, adds to focus and kind of promotes that do not talk to him trying to train sort of look. That vibe I go for. I don't know why, but I don't like being interrupted, guys. If I'm here for an hour, I want to make most of it. So here we've got a inverted Smith machine row. I've actually got my feet elevated on a bench. I don't know how high the bench is, maybe 20 inches off the ground, something like that. Here I'm just pulling it to my sternum. You will not be able to get your sternum to touch the bar. If you're doing that, you're probably doing it wrong. If you have any muscle of any kind in your back, you won't be able to anyway. Your forearms won't let you because they'll pinch too hard. So that's the range of motion you'll probably have, or at least most people have. Important thing here is not to bounce off the bottom or try and use inertia in any way. It's a controlled movement, and you'll notice your ability to get the last portion of the rep will diminish over time because your forearms will tire out. It's quite a eccentrically unbalanced movement in that kind of sense. Get out safely like that. Next, again, we've got a very similar exercise, bench in the same position, except my legs are further up the bench, which means my torso effectively is now more vertical, which is almost like a chin up in a way. Notice here I've got my leg straight as well. So this is a variant for people that cannot do chin up safely on their own. So the way you get around this is you have less resistance going through your body, and it makes it easier for you to pull up. Notice here I'm also using straps because my forearms are not undeveloped, my biceps are not undeveloped. My back needs a bit of help here. My arms are very tired at this point in the workout already. So you can actually move your knees in the position that they're currently in as you go through the movement to allow for more reps, more intensity, and a bit more volume. So not necessarily a bad thing, as long as form remains strict. Now this was what I like to call the saddle grip pull down. Why do I call it a saddle and not a narrow grip? Is because it's not narrow, it's about medium grip. And it looks like a saddle over a horse. So that's why I call it that. Again, same as the pull down I did earlier, somewhat. So rather than doing an underhand grip, which tucks in right to the lats, this one's a bit more bicep forearm focused in the sense that it'll work more of your brachioradialis. So the muscle, kind of the forearm muscle there, you can kind of see from the side, that looks quite juicy. Again, it's the same as a lap pull down, but I'm effectively trying to pull it down in a way that doesn't hurt or strain my biceps as much. Biceps are very tight at this point, so it's basically eking out a bit more with more neutral grip where I've got more strength in the arms. Again, same principle that you're using your hands as hooks. Notice here I'm shaking, it's difficult. Concentric muscular failure. Without using inertia, I can't really get it down there, so you can see why I stopped there. Lowering it slowly, you're not rushing. See there? That's tough. Next, probably one of the most daunting exercises for me to do a lot of the time at the moment, hyperextension. Now this is a lower back focused exercise. The way I'm doing this is with a lot of concentration and forethought. My quadriceps are flexed during the whole movement. That eliminates the hamstring and glute activation as much as I can. You'll notice here as well, I'm almost effectively curling up my lower back. So it's not a direct raise in the sense that my glutes aren't activating to raise body, it's my lower back as much as possible. Understand with my spine fusion, it is not perfect by any means. I basically work within my active range of motion that feels safe, doesn't cause me pain. Try to keep my arms in a sensible place and not flaying around everywhere. I keep my eyes focused on one point of the ground if I can. People often curl their neck up, which I think is a problem in itself. You know, your neck should not really be moving in any movement, I don't think. It should be quite neutral. You gotta love that gum chewing, haven't you guys? Quite funny watch yourself back. Anyway, very simple movement if you can get it right. Just use those key points and you shouldn't go too wrong. I don't go quite to failure in this one. I basically hold a static near the end because I find that is a lot safer. I don't really want to strain my back muscles too much. They're still very, very, very weak. I did have them sliced open across all the lower back muscles, so I've not got the best lower back strength, mobility, or anything like that around here. So I'm just trying to maintain what I've got, basically. And it does seem to be working reasonably well so far. So there we go. You've got the static there. Slow, eccentric. Get myself up safely. This is where it hurts sometimes if I'm not careful. So 1 foot at a time. Simple. Right. Next, this was the machine up. Everyone always gets seating position wrong. Everyone does. It amazes me, honestly. So raise the seat higher. So my elbows aren't like up in the air too much. Because if that happens, you cannot actually flex your bicep properly. You'll be limited in your range of motion and you won't be targeting the muscle group in the strength curve that you want. So hopefully that's a good little guideline there. It has to be specific to your own height and torso length. I'm concentrating here, flexing up with the bicep. Notice if you go too narrow, it'll work more of the forearm muscles, too wide, and it'll work more of the inner head of the biceps. So you can almost preferentiate where you're going to put more tension, which isn't such a bad thing. Important thing in here as well is I'm getting up as high as I can. Bear in mind I do have 19 plus inch arms, I think, so me curling much higher than that is impossible without actually pushing my arms in that direction. I'd actually be losing tension in my biceps to go any higher than that. So again, active range of motion, training specificity for you, your levers, and how your muscles are shaped and formed. Notice the eccentric remains controlled, you know. This is where it gets tough. That top portion is really tricky. Yeah, I'm getting stuck there, as you can tell. My body's sort of thinking, oh, I want to use some inertia now to get that up, but you know, you got to train safely, guys. You can't take the mick all the time. You can't always have that much fun. So I'll just load it there slowly. That's a tough set, as you can tell. Next, we've got a standing preacher bench curl. Putting some variation in here for you guys. I know a lot of you people won't have all these machines and things, but it's the best I can do to show you different movements using different apparatus. So, you know, this is pretty much how I'd set up a workout. I'm keeping my sort of wrists in very neutral position. I'm not curling specifically. I'm not twisting anything really. I'm just lifting up in a range of motion that feels comfortable and safe for me. I've probably got the top of the pad around halfway up my humerus. So halfway up my arm. That gives me enough stability, but not so much that I'm almost unable to move my shoulders if I want to give a bit more inertia. Now I'm saying the words inertia here because you can do it safely because your lower back is in a safe position. So there's some elements of training where you can give it a bit of welly, so to speak. That is under my sort of guideline there, but you've got to know what you're doing. Next here, very spine safe movement again. You can probably tell. This one's focused on the biceps again, similar to the preacher curl, but it's more of a mid-range loading movement. So I'm giving you guys some variation here. So all it is a very simple cable curl, and that is bring it up to my peak contraction level. Again, any higher than that, and my shoulders will come into it, and I'll actually lose tension. It will probably hurt my back as well. My shoulders won't thank me for it. So that's a perfectly fine, suitable, adequate range of motion for someone with my musculature. I'm holding static here. Used a bit of welly there to get it up, but still felt fine. I'm surprised I went for this other one here, to be honest, but you know, you're lying down, it's safe, you feel quite good, then you can go for it. Not too bad. Controlled, as you can see. Next, we've got a reverse barbell or short bar curl. I quite like this one, so I'm using this back pad again that you saw probably in the last video. I'm using that little lip there, you can see the little ramp. I find it quite handy. So it's a bit awkward because this is the part of the gym where everyone's watching you because we're at waist stand, and usually the lighting's pretty good as well. So I've got a young girl here, probably about 16 years old, just staring at me training the whole time. It's a bit distracting, a bit annoying. But, you know, I've got the mirror somewhat in front of me, like 20 feet, so I can kind of look at that and concentrate on my movement. So again, quite big forearms, so it doesn't really move much further than that. But that is to 90 degrees, so it's definitely enough for what I'm trying to do. My forearms are being worked very heavily here, as you can tell. So, static contraction. I'm really struggling there. That's it. Brilliant.